Howdy. After being cancelled, I thought Caillou was gone forever. Little did we know the depilated cue ball would be rebooted twice, and parents all over the world groaned in unison. But is it a better quality show? Probably not, but let's check it out anyway. We'll start with the abysmal Caillou reboot episodes and proceed to the, best. So let's see how our follicularly challenged brat navigates the 3D balloon nightmare world he now inhabits. With that said, let's begin. For our first abysmal episode, we have Caillou the Rockstar, aka Rockabye Rosie. So most of our Caillou reboot episodes have an emotional feeling the unvarnished bowling ball has to work through. It's mostly good morals and encourages kids how to verbalize how they're feeling. In some episodes, the feeling is fear, in some it's frustration. But in this episode, it's the clean-shorn lunkhead learning to shut up. I'm serious, this is at the start because it has nothing to say other than cue ball head learning to not yell while his sister is sleeping.
I wanna be a rock star.
I wanna rock!
The main problem? The song's annoying.
You could do like I sucks. Damn!
And I'm sure even the youngest of kids would get the message by the 30-second mark, particularly after his little sister Rosie is woken up by his dissonant, ear-grating wailing.
But Mommy, rock stars play their music loud.
Caillou, you're more like the equivalent to a raving lunatic bellowing on the streets. Use that giant balloon-shaped noggin of yours. So with his musical, talent unappreciated upstairs, he rocks his rock star song to his dad. Failing this, he plays his song to the cat.
I wanna be a... Huh?
Oh, you poor misshapen monkey face. When even the cat can't stand your music, maybe it's time to try a different profession. And finally, he learns that, shocker, he can play his music at decibels that wouldn't wake the dead. And I suppose that's progress. Next abysmal episode. And next is Caillou's big bath time. Not exactly a revolutionary concept with this one. Caillou has a bath. That's about it. What's the terrible tragedy? Caillou's piece of paper gets wet, and everyone's so sad.
Oh, that was silly of me. I'm sorry, Caillou.
Everything's wrecked.
I mean, you could get another piece of paper? You're in frickin' Canada, there's no shortage of trees. So as he's in the bath, Caillou has a fantasy of scuba diving and trying to save his dad from his sinking boat. But Boris won't leave the boat.
But you have to let go of your boat before it sinks. Okay then.
Nah, just kidding. He climbs aboard and they have a scuba diving trip together. Overall, it's a cute, inoffensive, ridiculously uneventful episode which begins and ends with Caillou in the bathroom. Moving on. And next up we have the best medicine. Many of the baldy lunkhead's problems are solved within his head in his fantasies. In this case, he's on his favorite deserted island, because his grandma sprayed her ankle and he doesn't want to hurt her and doesn't know how to make her feel better. So in his fantasy, he's got to help out my favorite character, Rexy. I honestly don't know why I enjoy this stupid teal Tyrannosaurus so much. He just has a really charming presence and voice. In this case, Rexy is sick, and the misshapen balloon face wants to help him feel better. He tries giving him tea, he tries cheerleading him for some reason. He tries tap dancing, and why? And eventually he settles in giving both Rexy and Grandma a hug. And I guess that kind of makes them feel better. Well, at least a bald-headed oaf didn't try to teach medical anatomy. That'd be a very weird episode. And next is Caillou's Monsterous Night. I think it's Halloween, and Caillou has a very friendly, blue, furry, harmless monster named Squibbly gently described to him, because Rosie is making a clay blue cat thing. Of course, this is just too much for the most sheltered cue ball in Canada, and he's terrified of this very friendly, furry monster hiding in his room.
Monsters hide in your closet?
Oh, that look of absolute defeat on his mum's face, as she realizes it's a miracle her son isn't terrified of blank wallpaper. I mean, kids his age are growing up as big fans of Five Nights at Freddy's, where giant uncanny animatronics brutally murder security guards. How is this scaring him? Boris tries to show his son how pathetically unscary his baby sister's furry monster book is, but it's just too much for him.
See? Squibby isn't scary.
A few inches later.
And what's in there?
Caillou, you can clearly see what's in there. There's absolutely no doors on the closet. I guess the animators either didn't get the memo or they just thought, oh, it's too scary to have a door on the closet. I'm much more concerned about the giant ruffled up tissue by your bin. So Caillou has to shine a light on his fears, even if they're the most pathetic fears ever conceived. So the bald Baron goes into his fantasy to have a monster hunting adventure with Boris. But I admit, as someone who grew up afraid of the dark, I get Caillou's anxiety and vivid imagination, and I would have appreciated a flashlight when I was a young boy too. But by Jesu priest, this underjuiced peachhead needs a little exposure to anything. And I guess we'll put these episodes in the category of slightly less abysmal. Yeah, that works. And next up is Caillou Takes a Leap. Staying on the topic of fear, this episode has another story about anxiety, this time after Caillou takes a spill on his bike. Hairless Cueball begins by feeling scared to go back on his bike and averting his fears. This unfortunately reinforces his fears, making it harder for him to get back on his bike.
I still feel scared, Mommy.
And we see in Caillou's fantasy, he relives the horrible trauma. You see, Red Racer has a terrible crash. Oh no! His car slightly spun off the track, and he suffered absolutely no whiplash or injuries whatsoever. Now, let's go back and see the crash SpongeBob showed kids.
Oh, yeah.
You know, writers, kids can handle stuff. So Caillou learns it's okay to feel scared after his slightly spinning motion. But to be fair, he reasons it out pretty well for a 4-year-old. Coming back after a spill or injury isn't always easy, and hypothetically if Caillou actually had an injury, well I suppose he would have overcome his fear well.
And I know I can drive again.
He makes a stupid jump. Moving on. Our next episode is Lost and Found Safari. In this episode, we will be dealing with quote-unquote loss. I say loss with quotations because this loss is tragically microscopic. You see, Caillou and Clementine find a tiny McDonald's-sized tiger toy. Oh wow! And these poor kids are apparently so toy-deprived that playing with a crappy plastic Happy Meal tiger is the highlight of their day. In fact, Clementine and Caillou are so broken apart about giving up their grand safari adventure with the cheap plastic tiger that they outright refuse to return him, at least until they have one more adventure.
Going on a safari is a great adventure, thanks to you.
You poor underprivileged kids. That being said, I like the message. In this case, coping with the loss of something. But it's so hard to grasp that message when it's all about Caillou's dull as dishwater safari venture with the McDonald's Happy Meal toy. Fortunately, upon returning the toy, they discover their friend Leo has 2 more of these sad-looking trinkets. So they can all play. For Pete's sake, take these kids to the zoo! Next up, we have May the Best Friend Win. Is all the edge of Caillou sanded off? Or can our favourite Nightmare Zeppelin still be an obnoxious twerp to his friends? Why, yes he can, but we'll get to that. The kids are having a relay race.
This is gonna be so fun.
Yeah, you're not exactly selling me on it, Tina. But hey, check it out. Tina's a cyborg like me.
Yeah, Cyborg, high five.
Anyway, Caillou's brattiness returns in spades during the relay. Being pushy and rude to his friend Leo, demanding he stop being a slowbie.
You're going too slow. Spin that hoop. Finally.
This episode really reminded me how exhausting competitive sports can be. They don't always bring out the best in us, and the whole thing takes Caillou right back to being that brat we saw taken off the air many years ago. Yeah, he's slow, but he's like 4 or 5. When I was that age, I couldn't even talk to people without discussing Ninja Turtles. He picks on Leo a lot, and it's uncomfortable to see the hairless Baron reborn. But I guess it's still realistic and a helpful lesson to the kids. And in the end, the glabrous skinhead apologizes and learns sportsmanship. But the episode's still bland. The show certainly isn't giving much quality competition to kids shows like Bluey, to put it mildly. And our next episode is Bean Sprout Blues.
Ms. Martin, I don't want Beanie to be fertilizer. I want to keep taking care of him forever.
Your plant must be turned into compost and die. Ooh, ooh, ha, ha, ha. Our shiny-headed friend must learn to let go of his bean plant.
I'll take care of you forever.
Keeping the stakes high, guys. Seriously, could they have picked a more boring plant? To face this terrible tragedy, Farmer Caillou must shear the sheep in his dream. But his friend Leo doesn't want Wooly to be shaved because he'll miss the wool.
Losing something you love is pretty hard.
I mean, it can't even be considered dealing with loss, because it'll grow back. It's like saying you'll miss your hair when you get a haircut. How will I get over the loss of my hair?
She's not scared. She's sad. And frankly, so am I.
Guys, it's freaking Wall. Even in Caillou's fantasies, he can't have any real loss. You know, the kids won't magically become corrupt, horrible people if something is lost. Unlike Bluey or Inside Out, I doubt this kid would even be forced to move house. I suppose that would just be too much for the young, fragile little minds. I mean, there's G for general, and there's just S for stupid.
Okay, I'm ready to.
Jeepers, if Leo's cut up by this, I can't imagine how he'll cope when Wooly gives him his, retirement lamb chops. Anyway, the hairless volleyball finally puts his plant into the compost, and you and I can stop questioning our grasp on sanity. For now. Next up, we have Adventures with Grandma and Grandpa. This is our first Caillou quote-unquote special on the list. If by special they mean especially maddening. Because this is a 5-minute episode stretched out into 44 minutes, and holy cow it drags. Volleyball Head is off to see Gramps and Grandma in their beach house. Insert boomers owning the property market joke here.
This place is a rental.
Oh, fair enough, Grandpa. Insert timeshare joke here instead. Caillou's challenge today is how to cope with change, which I could personally always use a reminder of. Grandma and Gramps do things a little differently to his folks, so Caillou has to learn to go with the flow. Like swimming in the ocean, unless you're going against a riptide. But sandbagging is ahoy, so this one was so blandly abysmal I found myself counting the moments, begging for it to be over. It's just the same message over and over. Grandma's home is different to his home, and he has to adapt. Well, at least the beach setting is pretty, but I was kind of hoping to get bigger adventures than Caillou is missing his toothbrush. Oh no, stop the presses! How will he ever use a new toothbrush? And it just wouldn't end. How the hell is a generation raised on mobile tablets meant to stay awake during this garbage fire? This episode was the real deal of bad. No other episode is as torturously milquetoast and unabashedly bland as quote-unquote Adventures with Grandma and Grandpa.
Just because things are different.
Oh, we get it. Holy cow, we get it. Next episode is Super Duper Billy. When someone is so much better than you at something, it can be intimidating to even try. Caillou is nervous because Billy is so much better than him at scooters. And credit to him, at least he's using his feet. Motorized scooters are more common now, and personally they're a real bore to me. So in Caillou's fantasy today, he has to learn how to save the city from Rexy's destruction as a superhero.
I'll sing him to sleep with a super sweet lullaby.
Have you tried asking him to watch your show? After binge watching these episodes, I feel half comatose. But Billy comes in and saves the city by being really good at skateboarding? And this gives Caillou the confidence to try scootering. Still, there is some fun ideas with this one. Caillou plays superhero and Rexy gets to rampage and destroy Caillou's city. So I guess we all leave satisfied here.
Just go for it.
I know, I'm sorry, I just love that joke. Next up is Caillou's Great Giveaway. Turns out Canada has a great recycling and giveaway program. And well, now we certainly know Caillou is not OCD. He comfortably can give away his toys without a second thought.
I'm going to give it all away.
As someone with OCD, this episode feels really weird to me, as people with OCD can find it really hard and painful to let things go. It's part of why I try to never accumulate much, but good for Caillou. Unfortunately, Caillou gets so caught up in giving that he gives away Rosie's favorite doll.
It's my sister's. She'll be super happy to give it to you.
I guess it's a helpful message to kids on not hawking other people's things, but it's very sad seeing Rosie so upset about losing her doll. I mean, I've only been watching this stupid reboot for a week, and even I know that Rosie would never give up that doll. I guess it's an important message, but I personally found it a little uncomfortable. But that's just me, and it's certainly not offensively bad. My favorite part was the pirate ship fantasy, but I'm biased towards pirate and sea settings. And the giant squid trying to steal Caillou's treasure was something I never expected from this show. So credit to the show, for the first time it actually surprised me. Next up we have the Pirate Captain's Treasure. This is technically our first episode of the reboot. Here, Melonhead learns about leadership. AKA, Melonhead learns not to be an imperious, tyrannical little brat to his sister.
But I'm the big brother, Rosie. You're supposed supposed to follow me?
Yeah, you're technically a big brother, but you have a tendency to show an intellectual capacity and worldliness that barely surpasses embryo status. But to be fair, this is a perfectly normal lesson for kids to learn. Caillou learns that leadership isn't about bossing people around. It's more about helping to guide a team and bring out the best in other people, often people more talented than the leader. Anyway, Caillou and Rosie are at their grandparents' beach home, which is also a rented condo, where they're given a treasure hunt quest.
This is a real treasure hunt.
Though the word quest would imply at least minimum RPG levels of fun. And this quest is about as fun as a dental filling, with all drill and no Novocaine. In this case, Rosie seems smarter at gathering clues than her brother, so when Baldy finally pulls his head in, he gasps, listens to her.
Because a good captain always listens to his crew.
And Rosie helps her cue ball brother finally finish the quest and recover the treasure. And their ultimate treasure is spade and bucket. Kids, I think even Rod and Todd would be dismayed at this sad treasure. Well, at least they can dig stuff now. Go get 'em, kids. Next episode is the Achy Breaky Playdate. Caillou's hanging out with Clementine at her house, and we get a tiny taste of South African culture with a Belma pudding. We also learn Clementine has 2 mums.
My mom's home from the museum.
Hi, hun.
It's nice to learn a little more detail about Clementine. Her second mum seems to do safari or museum work. But Caillou, being a clumsy twit, breaks her Diplodocus dinosaur model.
Caillou!
Oh, no.
The unruly pin-headed jackanapes feels guilty for breaking stuff, resulting in him getting a stomachache from the guilt.
Oh, my tummy is hurting.
Trying to figure out how to deal with his guilt, he returns to my favorite of his imaginary settings, that tropical island with the dinosaur Rexy. I want an island with Rexy too. So Rexy also has a stomachache, and it's only solved when he admits he was a glut and ate all the coconut collection. So Caillou tries admitting what happened as well. He comes clean and his guilt clears. He even helps fix the Diplodocus. And what do you know? His stomachache clears. If I'm being honest, not a bad lesson. Let's all celebrate with Malva pudding. I really want to try that now. Next up, we have Caillou's Home Run. Caillou and Rosie want to go to the park for a baseball game. But the house is a mess, and the family needs to tidy up first. Whoa, slow down there. This might be too much excitement for one episode. Next you'll tell me Garfield finished counting tiles on the ceiling.
4, 5, 6, 7.
So apparently Caillou is incapable of picking up a couple of toys while Boris fixes the vacuum.
I guess we need to clean this up too.
So they retreat to their rooms while their parents tidy up. Caillou's fantasy today is baseball. Unfortunately, Caillou's entire team is only thinking about what they want to do and not what's best for the team.
I got it. That's not fair. I called it.
Yeah, but I wanted to catch it, and I do what I want.
So they stink out there. But as you can probably guess, like any good sports drama, they start working together.
Hands! Go red team!
And somehow turn it around from like a 16-3 loss. Or at least it's implied. So they try to be better teammates to their folks as well and start helping to tidy up. And they all go to the park. And Tina's batting first. Given she can hold a bat, I'm really curious what prosthetic technology she's using. Maybe targeted muscle reinnovation? Anyway. And our next episode is Caillou becomes the Wolfman. Unfortunately, this is way less awesome than it sounds. It's Halloween, and Caillou's headed to Clementine's Halloween party. Until, of course, Caillou becomes a quivering, cowardly mess when he sees his baby sister's plush spider.
Big spider nice.
I mean, jeebus, how would this kid respond if he ever saw a regular spider? Or Aragog?
Hagrid has never sent men into a hollow before.
So once again, Caillou has to learn to be brave in the face of comically unscary things. But overall, I don't mind this one. Seeing Caillou in costumes and in Halloween, it kind of took me back to my younger trick-or-treating days.
Trick or treat.
Here you go. Oh, I love your costume.
Caillou does eventually make it to the party, but even then making it in the door is an ordeal. Because, ooh, the door has a face on it.
What was that?
Though I do like that Caillou's mom explains why we get scared to him, and that fear is normal, using her wolf story to help Caillou learn to be, brave. I get the message, but gadzooks they need to tone down Caillou's fear. And next up we have the uncomfortable hat. Oh, that title doesn't know what it's talking about. That hat looks awesome. I wear a wide brim hat all the time. Clementine invites the boys over to hang out at the sandbox.
That's the greatest sandbox ever!
But it's a sunny day and Caillou's left his hat at home. So he's given a big, highly sun-safe hat. I mean, he'll have nice burn-free skin, but he can't see the sandbox very well.
What's your hat, Caillou?
And the greatest, most apocalyptically huge action scene we get in this episode is, they almost crash their cars in the sandbox.
Look out, Caillou! Huh? What?
Ah! Phew! That was a close one.
Oh, what a relief everyone's okay. I recently saw the town-destroying carnage of Twisters, but that's nothing in the face of this heart-stopping, death-defying action.
What?
Sarcasm aside, Caillou doesn't want to say that his hat is too big for some reason, so he exiles himself to the shade, and no one can sit with him.
Why don't we all just play in the shade together? We can't all play in the shade.
Why? It takes a whole construction worker fantasy for Caillou to finally manage the common sense to just ask Clementine's mum for another hat. Hell, Leo liked the hat, just trade with him. In fact, when he finally asks Clementine's mum for another hat and she gives him one, Leo immediately asks for the big hat, meaning all of this could have been resolved in literal seconds with absolute bare minimum levels of cognitive capacity. I guess the message is tell people how you're feeling even when you're shy? Yeah, not exactly thinking outside the box with that one, but I certainly have been shy before, so I get the message. And next, we have Caillou clears the air. Caillou brings out his Red Eagle and is putting on an air show. Well, that's what Caillou calls his red plane. Baldy here actually really loves his aeronautics. At first, Caillou and Leo are just flying through the clouds at their pretend air show, until Leo accidentally steps on Caillou's Red Eagle. And credit to the show, I do appreciate how they teach Caillou to verbalize how he's feeling.
My face is hot and my tummy is twisty and I don't want to play with Leo anymore.
Sounds like you're feeling pretty angry.
I think if everyone in society could do this, the world would have a lot less misunderstandings. One of my favorite sayings nowadays is use your words. Caillou's angry, but he's not just being a brat here. He has every right to be mad. His friend broke his favorite toy. That's rough. And Caillou actually learns to empathize, to step into another person's shoes. As a result, he's able to forgive Leo's mistake. So the two of them work together to fix a Red Eagle, and they're back at it. It's a cute, simple episode, and honestly, I have no beef with this one. Next up, we have Caillou's Perfect Christmas. Finally, they address the age-old question. We know the cat goes meow and the dog goes woof, but what sound does a reindeer make?
It sounds like...
Well, now I want to know too. Let's find out. That is without a doubt the best sound I've heard all day. In this episode, we get Caillou facing the most adult concept so far, perfectionism. And I will face this challenging concept too by giving you slightly more dodgy editing than usual. Oh wow, so brave of me. Not. Anyway, a snowstorm is coming down, leaving the family stuck inside. So Caillou's mum tells them a story about the head elf in the North Pole, who looks over all the toys, and the fascinating problem of Caillou's dad being stuck in traffic. Woo.
Looks like I'll have to wait here for a bit until the storm lightens up.
Oh, and Caillou makes cookies. Oh boy. Well, at least he's less bratty in the kitchen here than in the original. This is another special, which of course means 10 minutes of content painfully prolonged into 44 minutes. On this Xmas Day, everything quote-unquote goes wrong for Caillou.
No! My marshmallow! Everything is going wrong.
Oh, by the cosmos, no! Caillou's marshmallow fell off. I know we just faced a global plague, countries are at war, the world faces a housing crisis, economic crisis, inflation, climate change, civil unrest, and fears of artificial intelligence, but Caillou just lost a marshmallow. Oh, whoa, fear. Blah, 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 kids show, but Jeebus, hasn't Sesame Street demonstrated in the last 50 years that kids can handle actual life problems? At least more than a marshmallow falling off. Anyway, I'm just ranting. Caillou tries to make the best of a not-so-perfect day, and it actually turns out pretty fun for him. Next, we have Caillou, the Bird Whisperer. Caillou and Boris have made a bird feeder, and they're taking it outside. As a bird whisperer myself, I approve. A bird does show up, and the dim-witted balloon head rushes over to it, scaring it away twice in a row.
Come back!
I mean, I get he's a little kid, but where's the common sense? In his fantasy, Baldiana Jones returns and he's out to find the red-bellied lightning bolt bird. Instead though, he finds Bigfoot, or Blossomfoot?
My name is Blossom.
Pleased to meet you, Blossom.
And Blossomfoot's friend is apparently the Lightning Bolt Charlie. Honestly, there's no big lesson to this one, apart from not frantically running over and yelling at birds like an idiot. No, you think? Harmless enough episode. And next up we have building a better Snowbody. I guess it's like a snowman, but it's a buddy. It's snow day, so Sarah and Beanie Brain are making snow buddies. And we're faced with a very important lesson, all too relevant here on YouTube. Caillou likes his snow buddy until he sees Sarah's. Because he thinks Sarah's snow buddy looks better than his, he no longer likes his own. It's a simple analogy, but I immediately understood it. Caillou tries to make his own snow buddy quote-unquote better by making his the same as Sarah's. But in making it more like Sarah's, it loses its unique flair that makes it Caillou's snow buddy. I imagine you're getting the analogy here.
You're just saying that because yours is so great and mine is at.
I know, right? They are. Soon Lunkhead's snow buddy falls over, and we get his fantasy as a construction worker.
You'll need to build one exactly the same as this one.
I mean, I get where you're going with this, but that's just standard council regulations. Your house may not meet legal requirements if it isn't built similar enough to others. I know, it's stupid, isn't it? So as you can probably guess, they build a different house and...
Ms. Piggy!
Why'd they call her Miss Piggy? She arrives to inspect the house. Fortunately, Rosie seems to love it. If only council regulations were as flexible as Rosie. Maybe next time we just need to add a super slide. Next, we have the kinda sort of okay episodes. The Silver Knight. Ooh, this special sounds kinda fun. Caillou's gonna play Knights and Shields with Sarah. Unfortunately, Sarah has a cold.
Maybe we could ask Leo or Clementine instead.
We must have a special, because it's dragged out as we have to wait to hear from Leo and Clementine.
How long does it usually take? Oh, it's so hard to wait.
Well, how do you think we feel, Baldhead? We're the ones watching you sandbag it out. Anyway, he makes a pizza shield, and his dad tells him the story of the Silver Knight, who's off to find the dragon and return all the sheep to the kingdom.
I will save the sheep by myself.
This is among my favorites of the episodes because it's just kind of a cute story. And unlike two of the other specials, it didn't feel as artificially extended. Child or adult, there's something very relatable about Caillou's meeting plans going awry and him just trying to have a good time by himself. Growing up, this happened a lot to me. And making the most of a day where your social plans all fall through, that's not always easy. And I appreciate that Caillou's story isn't even all 100% happy. He's mostly playing alone, and he's a bit disappointed as he plays. This episode took me right back to the days of pretending in my childhood, when you could whisk up a whole adventure with just a toy sword and a shield, or suddenly you'd build a fort using couch cushions. Plus, you know, Rexy's the dragon again, which always scores points with me. And I thought it was really beautiful how Caillou at the end splits his broken sword into two and gives one to Rosie. That's probably the most symbolic, beautiful moment I've seen in this entire show. Credit to the writers of this episode, this was an okay special. And next up we have the Impatience Explorer. I think you can guess what Caillou has to learn in this one. Patience. And if he doesn't learn patience, his friend will get frozen in carbonite and he'll have to rescue him from Jabba's palace. No, wait, that would be awesome. Caillou and Rosie just have to wait till after dinner to see whatever weird thing is in this surprise box. So as they wait, their fantasy takes them inside ancient jungle ruins with cat statues, where they have to learn to sit around and wait in order to uncover the ancient lost city. My favorite part of this episode? Well, I like their hats. And the forest setting with that Indiana Jones style ancient ruins is very refreshing. In Caillou's imagination, we do get a good variety of space, islands, and forests. And I appreciate that it's not all set in Caillou's house. And I know you're curious, what is their treasure in the box?
What's in the box?
I think it's a projector that displays space, underwater, and lost jungles? Yeah, well, I admit, if I was 4, that'd blow my freaking mind. Next up, we have Rosie the Giant. This one was a favorite of mine. It's all about teaching Caillou diplomacy. Unlike some of the other specials, the extra time is used to give a more detailed narrative, rather than just stretching a 10-minute story into 40 minutes. The story is basically Rosie is ruining Caillou and his friend's racing game, and Caillou just can't figure out how to communicate with Rosie. So his dad tries to help him by putting his problem into this surprisingly memorable story about Rosie as a giant. Even the racing scenes are kind of fun. I found myself weirdly invested in this silly giant racer story. It's very satisfying to just see Caillou successfully communicate his feelings to his little sister, and I think the ending is among the sweetest in the series. We probably won't see another Caillou series in the future. For all the conflict these two have had in the original series, it's just nice to see them end the series talking and being friends. And our next Caillou reboot episode is Meteor Shower. So what's a clodhead up to this time? Well, he's out watching the meteor shower, but he wasn't expecting so many people. And I can really relate to this. As an introvert and someone on the spectrum, I don't like crowds either. And Caillou is very uncomfortable with all the people around to see the meteor shower.
You okay, buddy?
I thought it would be just us at the park.
I mean, if he thinks this is bad, he'd go bonkers in Bangladesh. But I do get his discomfort. We also formally meet Tina, a friendly young lady who has a prosthetic hand, the one I called a cyborg before. I like to use the term cyborg because, well, cyborg is an awesome word. Honestly, I thought this was one of the most imaginary settings for Caillou's fantasy in the entire show. He travels to an alien planet with Rosie the robot to meet Sarah, and she shows them the meteors. And I was actually kind of impressed. They give him creative costumes and some fun colors on the planet. I call this one of my favorite episodes. So there's 3 seasons of Caillou for me. The Abysmal original, Caillou's New Adventures on YouTube, and this 3rd Caillou CG series on Peacock. If I were to rank which is best, I'd say Caillou's New Adventures on YouTube, while the original is obviously the worst, and this Peacock Caillou lands smack in the middle for me. I found Caillou's New Adventures a nice balance of giving Caillou an edge without making him too unforgivably annoying, but also not too milquetoast bland. But credit to Wildbrain for making both new seasons a huge improvement over the original. If you'd like to see me review the episodes in the Wildbrain New Adventures, let me know in the comments. If you think this is the stupidest idea I've ever had, well, let me know too. Also, thanks to Danielle who helped me find these episodes. And as always, thanks for watching and hope to see you next time. Today, I just want to say thank you so much for all the wedding well wishes for Nin and I. I wasn't expecting that many responses when I posted about it, and well, thank you. After 4 years, we finally got officially married in my favorite forest. We had a lovely time, and I'll be out with another weird video soon. See you next time.